All right. Like I said, I'm going to start this early today. Um, just trying. Okay, good. Yeah, we got the layout right. Just trying to get people in right at 2 so we can get started. Oh, let me get the chat open. We'll start at an overlay. Just seeing what we'll get. I'll move the overlay out once we start showing the screen. Like I said, space after, so that's why I started a couple minutes early. I want to get the notification out there, get people in, get us started right at 2 coding if we can. Try to get a full 45 minutes in. Yeah, hopefully it goes well today. Hey, how's it going, Yusuf? All right, yeah. So, like I said, just trying to get the notification out. Look at that. Looks like there's even a Halloween design for my thing. I wonder if I do this. There we go. It's perfect. I love it. That's perfect. That's gonna stay. That's gonna stay for it. Hey, how's it going, Tiger? All right, I like that. I like that a lot. That's perfect. It is Halloween here today, by the way. I know those of you in the States, or well, okay, if you're in Europe, it's early morning, but still, those of you in the States, it's still the 30th, but it's the 31st here. So, that's odd. Nothing came out. Unless you posted something, but nothing came across there. All right. We got. Oh, there we go. It took a little while. Yeah, your emoticons there took about a minute to download. That's terrible. Anyways, okay. So I'm gonna get rid of the overlay. Like I said, we are gonna get started because I'm gonna quickly go through what I did. Like I said, I would explain anything that I did beforehand. I did this because I think a lot of people kind of fall off when they see just code. So at least we can start with something visual and we can kind of move on from there. That's a good idea, actually. Now that I'm thinking about it, let me go ahead and get the BSoft component stuff started, get Storybook running, and then I can at least showcase that and show where we are. It's extremely simple. We started with nothing, but at the very least, it gives us a starting point to build from and something visual to look at. So here we go. We'll take I'm going to go ahead and kill the overlay here. And now we're going to do a screen share of the current component. I'll walk through very quickly what we're doing. We're going to just do a Chrome tab real fast here. There it is. Here we are. It's really simple text. It's basically a div with text inside of it. That's all it is. But it gives us something, like I said, it gives us somewhere visual to start. This is Storybook. It runs locally. It allows you to test components inside of, it allows you to do a couple of things. First of all, it allows you to test just the component itself. You can also set up testing scenarios where you can do things like set up certain markup around it, where you can have buttons, you can have this, you can have that. You can have it be part of a larger thing to see how it works in bigger situations. But you can also do very simple too. And this is very simple. This is just gonna show the image gallery for the beginning. Like I said, this is it for now, but that's where we're starting. So let me go ahead and get out of it. Let me stop sharing that. And let's get over to the code. Okay, so I'll quickly go through what I did. Like I said, I will keep anyone up so that you can see what I did to get to that point. I just didn't want to start with nothing, and because that right there would probably take us, a good part of the stream to get done. So I figured let's start with that, and then we can move forward from there. So let's go to BSoft components. Here it is. All right, and we're showing. All right, we're showing. So last time I had this in here just as an example of a story, but I can get rid of that. So originally, I think I just had a little bit of something in the props. I don't even know if I did that, but I created these 3 files basically. Like I said, I'm using React Refresh. So React Refresh likes props, likes types separated from the actual component itself. It likes to have separate files. Here we'll show where this is at. This is sitting inside of components. If you're, I did post a link out there if anyone wants to see it in GitHub. But if you're starting from the main GitHub, you got to go to this let's see here. Can you actually see the top of there? Okay, good. Yeah. So you got to go to this branch right here. So it's feature BSC93 image gallery. From there, you would go to the source components. It's not form. You don't need form. I only use that for that. Media, and then image gallery is the only thing inside of media right now. So you've got these 3 files. These are the files we're looking at. So right now I started with very simple image gallery props. What we're going to start with is we're going to use a string array for the images. Basically, we're going to use just the actual path to the image. Now, what I want to do is I want to use Unsplash. I have an Unsplash account. I've had it for years. They have an API where you can build collections, and then you can pull down, you can actually use those collections to pull down images and things like that. We probably won't even be dealing with images or anything until at least next time, maybe the time after, just depending on how much we get through today. So, and that's why I'm going so fast. I'm sorry for those of you who want to watch this later and want to actually play this high speed. I'm going to sound really fast. Anyway, so I've got the image gallery thumbnail type. The default will be images. There's indicators, which will be, if you've ever seen in some of these image galleries, they have little itty bitty dots that go across, and each one represents an image. That would be indicator, and then preview indicator. So it'd still be the dots, but as you highlight over the dots, there'd be a little image that pops up, and then above it, when you hover above it, and it would pop up a little example of the image, so you can see what you're looking at. We'll probably start with the images. I'm hoping we can do something pretty basic with thumbnails. That it doesn't take too much work, but we'll see once we get there. Then we got the image gallery thumbnail location, bottom, left, right, top. Pretty basic. Bottom's going to be the default. The images will across the bottom. The main image that's currently shown across the top, or taking up the top, basically. But as I showed in some of my examples, I don't know how many of you saw my examples. Amazon does theirs to the left. They have theirs left aligned. So, and I'm sure, right, top, I'm sure there's plenty of places if we went out there looking for different image galleries and how they were used, I'm sure you'd find them aligned to any different side. So the ability for them to be on any side is probably the best possible thing. But bottom will probably be the one you'll see most of the time, or like I said, Amazon is left. Image gallery components, still pretty simple. So basically, it's just got those 3 properties in it. This is the way I like to do components, by the way. I like to do them const declared. There's people that I got into a discussion, that was a little while back, but I got into a discussion with someone else about React components and how you should use functions just to declare all your components, because you have to worry about hoisting and all that. For those of you that don't know what hoisting is, inside of JavaScript, when you declare a function with the function type, it doesn't matter which order you declare it in. You can have a function higher up calling a function further down, because what happens is when you use the actual function name, it hoists them all to the same level. So basically, they're all accessible to each other. That's what hoisting means. In this case, since we're inside of a component-based system and we're exporting these things, there's really never going to be a time where you're going to run into a problem with hoisting. You're going to be importing this from a file. I always keep all of my components in their own separate files, so hoisting doesn't really become a problem. If there's another component, it's another file. So I don't run into these problems. But yes, if you were in that situation where you had some things that need to be used in some order, hoisting could come into play, but it's very unlikely. And so this is the way I like to do my components. We've got our 3 properties here. As I said, the default for the thumbnail type is images. The default for the thumbnail location is at the bottom. I went ahead and put a console log mainly to show us what's in these as we start to move along, but also because if not, you get errors basically here. If not, this is what you get. You get a bunch of errors, and I'm not entirely sure that TypeScript would let us do it. It probably would, but it's a pain and it looks really nasty. So I did that just to keep us from seeing these red squiggly lines all over the place. And like I said, also to tell us once we start actually passing stuff to there, what's going to happen. So let's see here what we got. All right, we got 10 people. Yeah, let's see here. Are you supposed to know what a div and a container is, right? Okay, fine. I'll go into that. A div, for those of you that are really, really new to this, a div is a division tag. It's a tag that's, well, here we go. We've got one right here. This is a division tag, basically. So this is a tag that it's a block element. Those of you that have watched my earlier streams, especially things around CSS and other things like that, have probably learned about block versus many different types, block versus flex versus this versus that. Block basically means if I were to take a number of divs and put them one after another, what would happen is they would just go top down like this. They would take up the entire section horizontally across there, and each one would horizontally go down. So that's what a block element means when I'm saying that. Basically, we're just putting a div in there because it's one of the most simplest containers of anything. So that's what we're starting with. All right, and this is quite literally going to be coding on the fly. I haven't done too much pre-work mentally other than where I want to go with this. So like I said, we're going to be at a timeline. We're going to cut it off at 2:45. So let's try to get forward. So what did I think of in the way of how this image gallery component is going to work? Going through the things that I posted, looking at examples and things like that. There's a terminology in software development that's called MVP. Now, MVP means a lot of things to a lot of people. MVP in sports means most valuable player. MVP in software means minimum viable product. And that's what we're going to try to build here. So we're not building the end all be all image gallery. That would take months and months and months of time. And that's months and months and months of time if I was spending more than 45 minutes a week on it. That would be months of time if I was spending, 10, 15 hours a week. So we don't want to have this huge image gallery that has all these things. I mean, Amazon, for example, if you highlight over one of their images, they have this little zoom concept that comes up and shows you things in a bigger view and all that kind of stuff. We're not looking to do that. We're not looking to do any of those, crazy features. We're looking for the minimum features. So what are the minimum features? We pass images as strings to the image gallery. We load said images into thumbnails, and then we will have the first one up in a bigger section. So the thumbnails will be across the bottom. We will probably limit it to 4 or 5 thumbnails per block, basically meaning that after it gets past 4, it will continue on, but it'll continue on off the screen. So we won't see those initially. Now this is where things are going to get interesting, because when we get to the end, we'll have a choice. So basically, if we do 5, what we could do is we could make it to where when it gets to the third one, each time it moves over, it moves the block over until it gets to the end. We could end up doing it that way, or we could do it to where when it gets to the end, the next one moves it over. So we got to decide on things like that. I'm not quite sure what we're going to do, but that we probably won't get to that today. So we'll probably just get to defining the structure of what we're going to be doing today, and kind of showcasing how it's going to look, and how we can use properties and things of that nature to set stylings and all of those kinds of things. So I'm hoping we can get that far today, but we'll see. Anyways, so we've got that. We've got loading the images. We'll load them into thumbnails. We're initially going to start our guy on the bottom, but like I said, we will have to add in features to put it to the left, right, and top. And of course, depending on where they are, that's going to then shift the actual viewing location to one of the other sides. So if it's on the right, shift it to the left, and vice versa. Anyways, so that's a big part of the MVP. So basically, load images. Have a default image. I like the idea of having scrollers that could be like the ones you saw on Amazon, where they're just little circles that come up when you hover towards the end of the image. Some of these things, if you click on anything at all, it just moves it to the next image. I do like the hover ideas, because what if you want to go back? Amazon did it to where when you highlight it over different images, it would immediately change it. I'm not so sure I like that, because what if you just highlight over something, suddenly it's just flipping. It kind of has I feel it has a bad UI. I would rather do it to where when you click on an image, then it changes the image. We could decide to do a roll. The problem with the roll concept is, what if you shift to, I don't know how many. So if we did do the roll would be only when you click on the circle, whichever way. That way it just rolls the image once. Because if you skip 3 images, you don't want to see this huge roll go across. The roll concept also means then we have to load images either on either side or something like that. We got to figure out how to do all that. I really don't like going into too much of that. And like I said, I think that's outside of the MVP. I think a lot of these other things are things we talk about. But basically, that's my idea. You click it, you go to the next image. Potentially, what we will do is we will load an image on either side to make it easier. If you click an image off, it's going to have to just load that image. It might take a second to load the image. What we probably will do is when the images come in, we probably will preload the images, depending on how many. I don't think we'll ever have an image gallery with thousands of images in there. So, we will probably, for the MVP, load everything when it first starts up. That way we don't have to worry about, if we click an image, 6 down, that we're going to have to load that image. We'll probably already have all the images preloaded. We'll just have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see what happens, the speed that it brings to us, and those kinds of things. So let's try to get started. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and give myself a space in here just to kind of work with. Do that so I can stop seeing that. What we're going to do is this, because it's going to throw us an error once we start actually doing some real work in here. For right now, ESLint will tell me I don't need those brackets, but it's going to be wrong really quick. Basically, here's what we're going to have. So, I've got class names that I use. So what we could do is we'll probably set up some class names. One more thing. I talked a while ago in BSoft components about headless components. Headless components are the concept where basically you write a functional piece to the component and a visual piece to the component. In this component's case, I do not believe we need to do a headless component. The reason for that is it's 90% visual. There's very little functionality, and I don't really see any kind of advantage in giving the user this little itty bitty piece of functional and letting them write the rest of the stuff themselves, because the most of the code we're going to be writing is going to be dealing with all the visual parts of the interface. So it's going to be just an image gallery component. There's not going to be a separate headless component. All right. So what we will do now is let's go ahead and say const. What I'm declaring now is I'm declaring the styles for the overall container. I'm going to declare the styles. I'm going to declare at least a section for styles with the actual main image and the sub image. We're going to use Flexbox to make sure that it all looks good and all that kind of stuff. Basically, we'll probably start doing it this way first, and then the reason I'm going to do it this way first is because my IDE does this. It does autocomplete when it's in class name. When it's in the classes, when I'm using the classes library, which you'll see hopefully before we finish up here, you will see that basically it will make things a lot simpler. It'll condense things, and we'll be able to put classes in there and styles in there and things of that nature, and move this stuff. But for now, what we'll do is we'll say BSC Flex. So that turns on Flexbox for us. Let's see if we got any questions. Okay, good. Let's see if I can remember this. BSC Flex call. Flexbox by default does left to right. So especially in divs, like I said, what does divs do? Divs are blocked. They go down like this. But we're going to use flex. So Flexbox by default. If I were to put 2 divs underneath this with just BSC Flex, they're not BSC Flex call. What's going to happen is the first div is going to be here. The second div is going to be right next to it. That's not what we want. We want a div here and a div here. That's what we're going for right now. So we will go ahead and get rid of our text here, and we will say then we're going to do this. We're just going to showcase the basics of what we're talking about here. It won't look pretty, but the idea will still be there. So we will say this is the main image, and then we will say This is the image thumbnails. All right. So if we take that, let me go ahead and I'm going to kill. I could just share my whole screen because you're not going to see much else. I think that's what I'm going to start. That's what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to go to sharing the whole screen. Watch out. You are going to see this mirror effect happen when I do it. But hopefully I won't be coming back here too often for you to have to see that. So I'll go ahead and do that because I'm going to be jumping between here, and it'll be easier just to share the entire screen. I wish this didn't do the whole mirrored effect, but there we go. Okay, so we're back to here. Now we're going to jump over to here. There we are. And we'll go ahead and kill this. Rerun storybook. It always starts there. Firefox is my default. That's why it does that. Refresh. There we go. So like I said, main image, image thumbnails. Had it been just flex and not flex call, it would have been main image, and image thumbnails would have been right over here, right beside it. So that's what we want. We want the main image up top. We want the image thumbnails down below. We could do a number of different styling concepts here. We could put a border around it. I don't think a border is really going to help us here. I don't see many borders, at least for the entire thing being enclosed. I don't think it's a bad idea though to have a border around the image thumbnails. So we can go to that. Let's see here. So basically, we can go class name here. Say BSC. By the way, this is Tailwind that I'm typing in. BSC is my prefix that I use for Tailwind. I've explained this before, but I'm not sure how many of you have seen that explanation. The reason that I use a prefix for my Tailwind classes is because if someone else is using Tailwind and I don't use a prefix, then you can have collision of the actual class names. So you can have collision of the class names in different orders, and things can get a little funky and they don't look right. If you put a prefix on it, there's less of a chance of that, because there's less of a chance that someone who's actually writing an actual website in Tailwind is going to put a prefix at all. There's no reason for them to put a prefix. But since this is a component, BSC is B soft components. So that's why BSC. So you'll see BSC dash in front of every one of my classes because of that very reason. So let's see here. We got border, BSC border, and it's BSC. I'm doing this from memory, so I think we'd say border 2. Hang on, BSC. Oh, BSC border is border with 1. Okay, so BSC border, BSC border primary 1. Maybe. Let's give that a shot. See what that gives us here. I have never gotten the watch to work, so I've always had to do this. And so there we are. So basic primary border. Like I said, nothing here today is probably going to look pretty. It's just we're just trying to showcase what it does look like, what it's going to look like, the ideas behind it. What we will do now is we'll do something like this, because obviously we don't want this to take up the entirety of the space. We'll probably come up with something a little bit simpler, but for now, let's just do something that's going to look relatively decent. I think there's a size, isn't there? BSC size. Width, height. Yeah, okay, fine. Let's try that. Oh, the warning you're seeing here is one of the ES lengths, and for some reason it didn't say that. I think I did the wrong thing. Fix ES length problem. I've got an ES length setting in here that actually is released by TypeScript, and TypeScript will tell you the order. It shouldn't really matter, but they'll tell you the order. It actually doesn't matter, but they'll tell you the order that's the best way to put your classes in. Makes them look cleaner. I really honestly don't know, but it's nice to have something to order. I'm all about order. So that will give us a little bit bigger view here, a little bit nicer view. It will kind of condense it a bit, make it look, a little bit more like what we want. So there we go. Now we've got a size that makes sense, because like I said, having it take up the entire screen doesn't really make a lot of sense. We'll probably give it more width eventually, but we'll start with that. Oops. Actually, I don't mind you guys seeing that. That was the other work that I do for the 3D interactive stuff. Well, we could do that. So let's see here. So now with that concept of using the border size or the size there, we can basically use BSC. I think it's W full. And since it's actually that is set to a height, right? And this is another reason I keep it, because I can actually see what those are. So those are set to real heights. Okay, so since those are set to real heights, what we can also do is BSC H full. He wants to flip them. All right, let's flip them. Okay, so why did I say that about H full versus W full? W full will basically take up 100% of whatever the container it's in. If it's at the body level, it'll take up the entirety of the body or whatever. But H full is the same thing. It's like setting the height property to 100%. But the problem with the height property is it doesn't work like the width, because the height is potentially unknown, especially when it's setting at the body level. The height can grow. We can have things change from a size perspective. So you can't just say H100. Now there are different properties that you can use to do those types of things. There's what's called view width and view height. VW is I think the setting in the property in CSS. If you were to say VW 100%, that would take up the entirety of the screen. It's using the actual view properties of the screen to determine what to take up. And so you can do that to make it take up, if you want something to just exist on the screen and that's the only thing on the screen you want, then you do that and it will take up the height of the screen for you. It's kind of an interesting thing. I'm not sure how many people have used that before, but that's it. We can use H full here, and I'll show you why we can use H full here. Actually, it's probably going to fail now that I think about it. It probably is going to fail because we set the height, but we haven't set the height. We haven't set our containers. Actually, we probably don't need to do that, but we'll do it anyways. We'll do it anyways just to show what's going to happen, because I don't think this is going to end the way I thought it was when I first did that. All right, we will see. Exactly, it didn't. And it didn't because we're using Flexbox. I figured this would take up, this probably did. If we look at it, let's see here. Let's do an inspect. Ba-bam. Now let's see if I can get this low enough that you can still see it. So over here, there it is. So it did take up the full width, but it's also a div. It's meant to take up the full width, but it did take up the full available width, as we can see. But it only took up the height of the text. And even though although this should be bigger, and it is not. Oh, it uses the width property again. Okay. 33%. No, I was wrong on that. 33% is not what I want, but we can fix that. Okay, I'll go ahead and I'll kill this. We can fix that because what I used here was wrong. I don't want the size property. The size property is a width property. There is a view width and a view height property. So what we could do is something to that effect. BSC. I'm trying to remember. Tailwind. It's Tailwind. No, that's not it. It's Tailwind CSS for anyone's wondering. There we go. I'm wondering if Tailwind has it. Tailwind may not have the ability to do view widths and view heights. Let's see. No, it does not have view width and view height. Interesting. That's at least, or at the very least, that's not it. Oh, there we are. Here we are. There's what I'm looking for. They do. They're down in here. And there's some new additions to this. Huh. Apparently CSS has changed the view width, view height. So screen view width, I'm guessing, is what we're going to want. But I'd like to say I don't want 100%. So you either have to take a percentage or you have to take it full, because that's how screen works. Screen works by using full width. Fit content. Yeah, that's not really what we wanted. I wonder what the other ones are. That's really interesting. Something to learn. Something to learn, guys. There's no longer just view width. This is the one I was speaking of right here. 100 view width right here is what I was speaking of. Let's not go worrying about that too much. I was just trying to make it look a little bit prettier for us, but let's not spend too much time on that. Instead, what we will start to do is we'll start to move some of these guys. Let's see here. Some of these properties here. Don't know how that happened. Out into actual, yeah, we'll leave this out because it doesn't really matter. So we'll start to move these out into their own properties. We will call this container styles. And as you notice, it will say that. That is what comes from class names. Here, let me fix this real fast. Class names is something that I use. It's something that if I were you and I was using React or even Angular for that matter, and you're going to be using something like Tailwind, it's going to have a lot of styles with it. Class names is very, very helpful. My IDE understands CX as the short name for it. It's not exported from class names. Class names uses a default export, so you can name it whatever you wish. But most people and most examples you will see when they're using class names, they'll call it CX. That's why I do it, because that's what I saw them. That's why I saw people starting to do. I'm hoping that means that maybe my IDE is finally giving us the ability to see items. Oops, not what I wanted. Inside of there. So then we can say container styles. And here I'll just show what we're talking about here. We'll go ahead and we'll do these real quick. So const, this is going to be, I'll just call it image styles because it's a singular, so we can all understand that's for the main image instead of calling it main image styles. CX, we will pull this over. And we will bring it down here. No, it's not what I wanted. Styles. Really, it's not catching on. Ugh. It defaulted to console for some reason. There we go. That's what caused that. Okay. And last but not least, it's wrong on that. And this is what I say. That right there was, people are always asking me about, why don't you use AI? AI is so helpful, blah, 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 and this and that. You see what that did there? It didn't pick up that I'm going to actually replace it with this. No, it just went ahead and said, well, you did, the last one you did BSC H full, BSC W full, so surely you want that again. No, I didn't want that again. And basically, then I have to go back and replace it. I was going to have to anyways, but it didn't really help me, basically. Luckily, they just put that in there to try to get me to sign up for their thing. Here, I'm going to quickly bounce over, see if I got anything. Okay, no one's saying anything. I think we can get rid of Tailwind for now. But what we will do is we'll show that basically we've moved this into the CX classes. We'll pop over to here real fast. We'll restart. maybe for this, I should make Chrome my default so it does it. But as you can see, we're back to where we were before. This thing's taking up the full height because we didn't define a height, and we've got it on top of each other. But it looks basically the same as it did before. So that's the concept here of what we're doing. Basically, we're going to use these, and we're going to have the ability to do stuff. So let's actually try to do something that's useful that's teaching here. Let's go ahead and let's use the thumbnail location. Let's try to. Oh. Standing desk, and I knocked it off. Let's see here. Oh, there it is. Okay. At least I hoped There we go. Oh, no. Come on. You can do it. There it goes. And there it goes. All right, cool. Always something. Let's see here. So where were you? That's right. Okay, so what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to take the thumbnail location, and we're going to try to feed that in to our thumbnail styles, which will also probably affect our image styles as well. So we have Flexbox, and it'll probably even affect our container styles potentially. Yeah, it would, because column will only be if we're doing bottom or top. So here we go. So how are we gonna do this? Here's the advantage of using class names. So you basically can put anything that's always going to be applied stays up in the top text there. And once you get to things where you have to have individual things dependent upon certain settings within your component, you can do this. So we can say, maybe I should go back to another component to see which direction this goes. I think it's this. I think so. We'll say BSC. Oh, look, it does. Flex call is thumbnail styles is equal to, no, not thumbnail styles, thumbnail type. See, that's what I'm talking about. This thing auto-completes and it doesn't know what it's doing. And it didn't know what it was doing there. Thumbnail type is an enum, and it didn't even know what enum it was. Thumbnail type is equal to image gallery thumbnail type. Nope, not thumbnail type. Thumbnail location. Location is equal to image gallery thumbnail location. There, image gallery thumbnail location dot bottom, or thumbnail location. What's the autocomplete saying? See, this is what I'm talking about. Image gallery thumbnail location bottom. Why would I want to write the same thing again? Thumbnail location is equal to image gallery thumbnail location dot top. So if it's top or bottom, we want to keep column because it's going to be in order. So that's that. And then we've got call, so we can take this off. And basically, call is the default is not using call. So in this case, we don't need to do left and right, because left and right will already do what we're already planning on doing. So we only need to worry about putting the flex column setting in there if we're doing top or bottom, because it needs to be ordered in a column instead of being ordered left to right. If we're doing left to right, then we don't have to do anything with the container styles, at least. So that's the setting for the container styles. The image styles, yeah, okay. Actually, no. Let's think about this, because we've got the column here. What we could do, we could go one step further, and we could say, no, top to bottom would be it. So yeah. So top would be column. No, sorry, bottom. Bottom would be column. I'm wrong about this here. If anyone's got a suggestion, but I know what I'm going to do. Okay. So top, I'm wondering if anyone can guess what I'm going to do, what my change is going to be here. What my change is going to be is BSC flex call. I think it's reverse. And this is why I like doing it inside of the class names here. Oop, but bam. There we go. That's better. All right. So why did we do that? Okay, so basically, we're still going to have to do something for left and right because that's what we're going to use. We're going to use the flexbox location to easily flip these things for us. So it'll keep us from having to do too much else. What we will do to test this out, though, here's where we'll go and look at Storybook. So here's our Storybook setup. I don't think I actually went through this. I'm sorry, I didn't go through this. This is the basic Storybook setup. You take the type of the image, the type of the component. This is where the title came from, and this is where the section came from. If you don't, Storybook, you don't need to put this anymore. This used to be a required property, but in the new Storybook, you don't have to. It will take it based upon your location. But if you want it to look nice, because it'll just literally run the text together and kind of look crappy. So if you want to make it look nice, you do still put your title, and this is what gave us our own media section for this one particular property. I don't know if you saw that, but when we go back to there, take a look. And this is the actual component itself, which is also the same as the type of. And then we just do stories. In this case, I didn't put any kind of templates around there yet. We probably will eventually put a template just to kind of show it in some kind of a working scenario. But for now, let's not worry about it. All I did here is I passed images and I let the other two properties take their defaults over. Honestly, we'll probably move this higher up. We can put arguments inside of here that will always be there, and these will probably always be there. So eventually we will move these up to here. But just for a simple setup, I didn't see the purpose. But as we go along, typing this over and over again is not really going to be advantageous. Matter of fact, this time, well, I do have to type images because it's a required property. But we can say export const. That was default. This is, I guess we can say gallery top. And same thing, we can put story. So what we'll do is we'll copy this to that. But then what we'll say is we'll say thumbnail, there you go, thumbnail location. And we'll do top, and that will test what we just did there. So what should happen now is you see the gallery. When we go to the top story, you should see the gallery on top of it. So this should be here, but you won't see it here until we restart the whole thing, and then it'll actually recompile for us here. I'm using Bun. Bun, as you see, compiles very quickly. That used to take about 40 seconds. Before I was using Bun. Now Bun compiles almost instantaneously. It's already up and running. We got that. Now let's see. Look at that. The thumbnails are now on top of the main image. So there we are. Now we can have our thumbnails here. Now we don't have left or right yet because we haven't done that yet. But that's the idea. That's the idea of what we're trying to do. So basically we tell it call reverse. Now there, of course, is a potential side effect of doing this because that means that everything is reversed. So if we have anything more than just these two divs inside of there, the entire thing will be reversed. So if we happen to put something between the main image and the thumbnail images, those would be reversed as well. So you got to think when using those types of tricks inside of CSS and things like that, you got to think about what you're doing. So at least we got something in here. We got that. I'd like to try in a hurry. We've got about 5 minutes before I want to start the space and let any questions come through. But I'd like to try in a hurry and get the left and right working if we can possibly do that. That would be really, really great. We've got call reverse. We need left. For left, then we have to do, let's see here. Those will no longer be call. So that will be out. You can do row, but what we could do, that's right. For left and right, we would have to do, yeah. So left and right would, here. We can actually run a test and it'll show. Here we go. If we run a test, so let's go ahead and let's build the galleries, the gallery test real quick. That's what we'll finish out with, and it'll show that these things do sort of work already simply by just not defining anything. So we got default, we got gallery top. We got, let's call it gallery right because that one's actually going to work. Gallery left won't work because by default it's down at the bottom. So that means it's declared after. So in normal Flexbox, it'll be main image first, gallery second. The gallery won't be flipped though to go vertical. It'll still be horizontal, but that's the beginning of what we got here. So story, we'll work on that as it comes along. So we will just copy this one this time. So we can have the thumbnail thing in there. Just replace our thumbnail from top to right. There we go. Bam. And we'll do a quick recompile. Stupid thing. There we go. There we are. And there we are. So like I said, it's not perfect. It will be all the way over here. Yeah. But it works. So that's the idea. So like I said, if I did left, you wouldn't see anything because we don't have any settings to make this go over to this side. But that's the idea, at least. That's the idea of what we got. So basically, depending on what you're setting. So what we did to make this work is flex call was taken out. And it was basically let do what Flex normally does. So what Flex normally does is it orders things from left to right. Now the reason for this is more than likely it just gave this all of the room. We can set up things about defining how much room everything has. We will be doing that later because we are right at 244. So I'm going to go ahead and end the stream here and start the space. So if anyone has any questions that either I didn't see, which does happen, especially with LinkedIn, it seems. Please, if you have an X account, jump over there. If you're on LinkedIn, you can ask questions. I'm going to try to keep this at about 30 minutes because I do have other things I have to do today too. But I do appreciate. It looks like we got at least I don't know if 16 people are still here, but it looks like we at least had 16 people live, which is awesome. I'm going to say one more thing real quick. If you like what I'm doing, please, the one thing you can do to help me, like, reply, and if you're really feeling generous, repost this stream. I'd like the actual stream, the actual video to get out there for people to see. So I'm going to try to do some things to keep them going, and someone give me an idea about using articles to do that. I'm going to start doing articles to gather these things so that then they can be seen and continue to post them and all that kind of stuff. But that would be really helpful to me. That would be really helpful to me to get this out there. I'd like to see more than 80 or 90 views. I'd like to see 200 views. That'd be really great. So thanks everyone for showing up.